Hi, welcome to Short Film Showcase. I'm your host, Mike Messier. This is a show where we feature the very best short films and their filmmakers here from New England. Our very first piece of business is the acting reel of our first guest. Here's the acting reel of Rosemary Pacheco, right here on the Short Film Showcase.
I want him to go shopping with me. I want him to compliment my hair. Please, God, just make my son gay.
If it involves my tax money and my wallet, then it's my business.
I'm sorry. I didn't want to do this on the phone. I knew it was going to go this way. I'm sorry for even calling you. Just give me a chance. I just need some time. People love to be entertained. An obsession of the weak, the lazy, the mindless. The slaves will never notice when we take over every human brain on the planet, rooting out billions of the inferior. I know I'm not a lesbian. Oh, geez, that was meant to be funny. It's, I know, it's a good thing. Why do I open my mouth? That's not a good idea. It's bad. All I do now is touch myself. I mean, she told me to tell people this, so I posted it on Match.com. And I have a lot of dates now, but we never seem to leave the house.
Because while you were sleeping,
this morning we have new developments on stories we've been following all week.
we helped plan your day.
Welcome back to Short Film Showcase. We just enjoyed the acting reel of our first guest, Rosemary Pacheco.
Mike, nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, we're good friends. You've helped me a lot with the Motif magazine,
Right.
which you're a big part of.
I am. I'm writing the Seen and Heard column, and it's a great pleasure to do that because they have never had a film column devoted to all the indie filmmakers. And Mike Bryan, who's now the publisher.
And this is a local magazine from
Yes, it is.
Providence, Rhode Island.
Yes, it is. Arts and Entertainment.
Right.
And it comes out the first of every month, but weekly online. I have a different version of the column all the time. So we do events and what's going on in the indie film world, and he knew that I knew a lot about it, so he decided to just have me do a column, and I said, let's do it. Let's call it Seen and Heard and get this information out there, and I like to push projects, so.
And this is Mike Bryan, who is the new owner of Motif magazine. It's a local journal. And tell us how you got involved in writing in the first place.
He was a professor of mine at URI.
Okay.
And I was studying multimedia there, and before I even got into film acting again. And then we chatted, and then I was learning that he was buying the magazine, and he asked if I'd be interested. He just knew that I knew the gigs that were going on around town.
Right.
So I said, what if we do a column? I mean, there's so many voices to be heard. Let's do it. Let's get these projects out there and interview people, talk to them. I have a lot of, I do like a ticker tape type of column, which, gives you all this information. But at the same time, we do features as well. So a lot of times I'll get one person do a feature, talk about their project. It's kind of cool. I really love it, and I'm just, so it's like a whole new career.
What did you do on a personal level? What did you do before you were writing for Motif magazine, if you can?
I've been a product designer pretty much my entire life. I left product design for other people, and I now have a wedding and event design company. And I run a business, so I'm self-employed, which is great because it gives me the chance to be able to write and act, and so it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's hectic and it's a little crazy, but it works.
It's great.
Yeah.
And there's so much talent here in New England, and you're such a great supporter of people in New England. And we'll just take a look at some of these projects.
Awesome. Sure.
And you're involved. Before we get into other people's projects, you're involved I believe, in your own project. You want to tell us about that one?
Yes, I'm actually writing a film right now with Lenny Schwartz.
Yes.
Who's you know Lenny. He's a great writer, films and distribution and plays in New York City. And actually, you're going to be a part of that, Mike.
I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to be a part of that. It's a special film. It's, I'm going to say, semi-autobiographical, but it's about finding the one and
Yes.
all the trials and tribulations of searching for that partner that you hope is going to be the one for you. And so I won't say much more than that, but it's in the works, and we expect to be done writing that. I'm going to say probably the end of April.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting that cast and hopefully shot by, I'm going to say December of
Okay.
this year, I'm hoping.
2014.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be a big year for you and for a lot of people in New England. You want to talk about some of the other projects and how they're going to reach out. We've
Yep.
got Raz Cunningham, Raphael DeBacco. Just tell us about some of these folks that you're working with real quick.
Thank you for asking. I have to say it's been a banner year for me.
Right.
Other than getting engaged, which is, yes, that's a big deal, but
Congratulations.
thanks. The banner year, it's just come out, it just all happened at once, it seems. I started shooting a film called Special Feature with Raz Cunningham and Mel Hardy. It's about producing an indie film and all the trials and tribulations of that effort.
For the people that don't know, Rosemary,
Yeah.
producing an independent film, you've been involved in several and just knowing the scene. For
Yeah.
those who have never produced an independent or even a short film, what trials and tribulations do they
Oh.
come across?
Everything from, I have to say, in an indie film, it can be everything from financial struggles
Right.
to personality clashes, which can happen in any industry, as we know.
Yep.
Trying to get something made, basically funded from your own pocket, or crowdfunding, or finding investors is not an easy thing. So we stay positive, we have fun, we have a good time. Is it a lot of work? Well, we all know that it is. It's a lot of work and it's dedication.
Right.
So this is what I admire about people like this. They have a vision and they go for it. And it doesn't matter what else is going on in their lives, they got to get it done. And that's what I like about it, because it's so much passion and creativity, and I love being a part of that.
That's great.
That's my thing. I mean, I love it. So it's tough, but it's one of those things where you have no other choice, you got to do it.
If you're a passionate artist and it's in your system, so to
Yeah,
speak.
well, you know that.
Right.
You're one of them, and so you know that you've got to do it. There's no falling back on this job or that job. You may have another job, and I admire the people who, work full-time and do this.
Right.
And the acting teachers and the drama coaches and the people who run large groups. I love it. I mean, I run a large group myself, any kids actors group, but there's no other way. You've got to do it. You've got to get it out there.
You're committed to your own creativity and self-expression.
Right. That's what I think drives people. They've got to get it done.
Let's talk about that children's acting group for a moment. Tell us about that.
We started a group last year in November. I'll just say that it's great. It's about 500 members strong. It started because I was in a film called Chum, which is a Garth Donovan film, and Skip Shea hooked me up with that group. Skip, a well-known filmmaker
Yep.
in these parts. Couldn't find a kid, so we're looking. Charlie Tacker, who's very
Oh,
well
yeah.
we child actor, not available. Of course,
Okay.
Charlie's too busy, not available.
Sure.
So what we do, we look, got to be other kids around, right? So
Right.
we put this notice out, found Natasha Colinero, whose son Gianni was in the film with us. From there, she said, we should start this group and get these kids together. There's so many talented kids. The rest is history.
So you put together, based on a need for an actor,
Yeah.
you put together a group of kids actors. yeah.
Kids who can sing, dance, act. They're not shy in front of a camera. Theater actors, film actors, they're awesome. They're an awesome group of kids. And we have more joining every day. So,
That's fantastic.
and we help parents understand, look, you don't need this, or you do need this, or be careful of this organization, or do you need headshots? Do you need professional ones as a child? We kind of counsel them on what not to do,
Right.
you know, more than what to do.
To be specific, I think you might be referring to in a nice way that
Yeah.
some of these groups that we're alluding to ask for a lot of money up front
Yes.
in order to promote the career of child actors.
Yes, there
And-
are scammers, as we know.
Right.
There are people who will take advantage of the actor. I don't care if you're a child or an adult
Sure.
actor. There are people who will do that. But there are parents who are so new to the business.
Right.
We knew that, you know, last year we had a huge networking event, had a lot of people there. Industry experts came and they talked about their particular expertise. You know, we had Erica Derrickson,
Sure.
she from HEA, of course. She came and spoke on social media. We had casting directors, Reno Venturi,
Oh, yeah,
my
great
buddy from
acting
Connecticut.
Yes.
Yep. We had other agents come in. We had Christine Wise at casting director. They all came and they chatted with the parents in a lovely, informal atmosphere. We had food, we had drinks. And we just wanted these parents to know, hey, you know, these people are willing to talk, ask questions. They're here to help you.
If there could be any lesson learned real quick, it's be careful of the pay to play because
Yes.
when an adult brings their child and the child's obviously very excited to possibly
Right.
be acting, and then the hit is please give us $500
That's right.
for a headshot.
That's right. And
May not, you know.
I caution new moms and dads too all the time. You know what? Do not go around with the starry-eyed glasses on. You've got to see things as they are.
Right.
And so we just give them advice, you know, what does this agency do? How do they work? Do they need, you know, should I get my photos done with the agency, or can I just use my friend down the street? I mean, it's as simple as those kind of questions, but we answer them, and we answer them to the best of our ability. And the group really has grown, and it is a spin-off of Erica's group.
This is Erica Derrickson. who's
Yeah, it's definitely a
actu-
spin-off.
She's been on our show twice.
Yep.
And she runs the Hollywood East Actors
She
Group.
does.
And
She's a good friend of mine. Yep.
if people want to check that out, it's on Facebook and so forth.
Yes, Hollywood East Actors Group. In fact, a lot of the people that I know now in the films that I've become a part of and just network with and everyone, a lot of them are from her group. So I give her a lot of thanks for that because I just met so many great people in that group.
So for people out there who are wondering, Rosemary Pacheco, how do I get involved in the local scene, even if they're not in New England, if they're out
Yeah.
in different parts of the country? What are your thoughts on how someone can just get involved?
In film,
In
in
film
film
and-
or theater or any of those things.
Yeah.
Film at both, you know, both venues, I would say, check out local auditions.
Okay,
I would say learn who's who.
right.
You know, like, you know, who is Skip Shea? Who is Mike Messier? Who's Brian Casey? Who are these people?
Sure.
What do they do? Can I try out for one of their films? Also, I would take classes.
Right.
Classes are good to practice the craft and just get comfortable in front of a camera. Just, and learn, see if you really like it, first of all.
Right.
You know, see if you like it. And then, you know, find projects that you think you might be interested in and try out for them.
Yes.
That's what I would do. I would, you know, read your local papers, see what's casting, and go for it. Why not? I mean, the only way you're going to know is to try it. You do need a headshot. I would get a headshot done,
Right.
a basic, nice shot, put a resume together. It doesn't have to have
Tons of stuff right
tons
away.
of stuff. I've
Right.
seen resumes with, this is what I did in college, this is what I'm doing now. You know what? It's okay. You got to start somewhere.
The intimidation factor can be huge for people that have never
Yes.
done creative stuff. So once they, like someone like yourself, who can be encouraging and say, you know
Yeah.
what, it doesn't have to be that complicated to get started.
No, it doesn't. I think you need a little confidence
Right.
and a little desire to show what you got, and a little passion, though, a little passion for the industry. I will say that it is not an easy industry.
That's true.
If you're willing to go on an audition and get no given to you as an
Right.
answer, a lot of times, most of the time actually, it's tough. I do tell the parents that too. It is tough. So you're not going to get everything that you've gone out for, but it can
Right.
be as simple as you just don't look the part.
Sure.
You know, it can be as simple as that. You could have had I've seen people have terrible audition, terrible.
Right.
But then they've come out and they've got the part and they shine in the
Right.
role. So, you know, I just think I watched a thing on TV the other night about Aaron Paul and his interview, his audition for Breaking Bad. Awful,
Okay.
awful. It was terrible, but he.
You got through it somehow?
Look
Yeah.
at Aaron Paul in Breaking Bad. He's one of the best there is. So
Sure.
I mean, it's just, you know, there's something about people who feel that that person is still going to be right for the role. So, you know, it's a lot of give and take, and a lot of work goes into it too. You got to be prepared.
Right.
You know, it's not an easy thing. A lot of people think acting is easy.
No, they just don't understand.
They don't understand that there's a lot of preparation that, you know, they just don't see that. So.
Right.
So we know that it's a lot of work. So be prepared as well, and I'm going to say that.
Preparation,
but
yeah.
It's a great industry, you know. It's a great industry. It's just great around here. I hope New England is coming up in the world. It's being put on the map by lots of individuals.
Right.
And I love that. That to me is just fantastic.
Are you a native New Englander, Rosemary? Or?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
From Massachusetts, Rhode Island?
I'm from Rhode Island.
Okay.
Yeah. I spent time in Chicago and did some acting there.
Oh, tell us about that.
Yeah, I actually did a few films there. Native Son, it was an Oprah Winfrey movie. I did Vice Versa with Judge Reinhold. I don't know if people remember that.
I think I saw it
This is like 25 years ago.
cable.
Yeah.
This was,
He
body
switches,
switch with a young guy or something?
Yep. Body switches with, I don't know, I forget the young man's name. But anyway, it's a very funny film.
Okay.
And this was years ago, and then, you know what? I got married, had a family, and kind of got out of it for a long time. And believe it or not, the HEA group was my re-entry into the whole acting thing again.
Erica's Hollywood East Actors.
Erica's Hollywood East group, and then I met, I did a 48-hour 48-hour film project.
Right.
So
Which one was that? For those that don't know, the 48-hour film.
don't ask Alice.
Okay. The 48-hour film project is a film
Yeah,
where you have
it's a-
2 days to make a movie.
Yes, 2 days. You have 48 hours to conceive of, write, shoot, cast, edit. I'm sorry, cast, then shoot, then edit the film, and turn it in 48 hours.
So this was your kind of reintroduction into the world.
Yes, and I had a ball. I had so much fun that, you know, I did another 2 48s after that, and I thought, wow, what a great way to work on something with a team, and just you're really under the gun, but it kind of forces you to be your best almost.
right.
And so it almost brings out that best in you, because it's such a nerve-wracking time, you know, and the director and the producer, they're just pulling their hair out at this point, you know,
Right.
trying to get it in on time. And then what's great is that they show it at a local cinema. And there's awards, and so, you know, it's worldwide.
And Motif Magazine had, I believe, their own awards, am I correct?
We did, for the first time, again. In June, we had film awards, so that was great. Mike Ryan,
Right.
publisher, wanted to do Motif's very first film awards, which I thought was a great thing. So,
Yeah.
yes.
I was there for that evening. It was quite enjoyable.
That was at FET. It was
Yes.
a very nice thing in Providence. Very
it's,
nice.
It's a whole scene here in New England, and maybe some of the people in other communities watching our show might be inspired to say, you know, we're in the middle of Nebraska, but
Yeah,
if New England can do
absolutely.
it, we can do it.
If we can do it, you know, there's a lot of talent here, and I know that other cities across the country have their pools of talent, and they can. It's inspiring to watch a small state like Rhode Island have a major coup like Chad Verdi putting, you know, self-storage and Army of the Damned, you know, being sold, and the boys from 989, Ambrosino, Delmenico,
Sure.
selling to IFC,
Almost Human.
Almost Human.
Right.
I mean, these are major things for this state. And, you know, somebody's got to tell people about it. And it seems to be me.
Just for, yeah, and
So-
people want to see more information. We just got to wrap up here. But for
Yep.
projects we didn't even get to talk about, Laura Pepper's Fairfield
Yep,
Follies,
Fairfield Follies coming up soon. I'm in that, yes.
Jill Passon,
Yep.
Accidental Incest by Richard Mark Griffin,
Richard Mark Griffin's Accidental Incest, yep.
Right.
That's another project I'm on, yep.
written by
And,
Lenny Schwartz, and Raz Cunningham.
Yes.
Did I say that right?
Raz Cunningham,
right?
yes. That's a special feature, the mockumentary with Tommy DiNucci, myself, Dennis Hurley. Yep.
People
So-
just need to go, and One by
Raphael DeBacco, a sci-fi film also shooting in April. or March or April. So it's going to be a great year.
We can talk with you all day, but we do have to wrap it up. But,
Yes.
But if people want to see Rosemary Pacheco, they go to Motif Magazine online.
Yep.
Or pick up the local paper if they
Yep.
happen to be in the Providence, Rhode Island area.
And the column's called Seen and Heard. And I love to write about projects so people can contact me.
Right.
At Motif, or they can contact. I think my email is right in there in the paper.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, Rosemary Pacheco, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For
This
coming on
is
the Short
great.
Film
Thank you for
Showcase.
having me. I enjoyed myself.
Great. Right now, we want to take a look at a short film right here on the Short Film Showcase. It's Rena Faye L. Monroe's Chain. Let's check it out right here on Short Film Showcase.
Dubious.
Welcome back to Short Film Showcase, where we feature the very best New England filmmakers and their short films. Right now, we want to take a look at two teasers from our next guest. It's Diamond Rough and the Tillinghast Nightmare by our next guest, Alec Asten. Let's check out these two teasers right here on Short Film Showcase.
Is smart. Everybody knows that Diamond is smart.
Okay, keep going, man.
What if I told you that I got some guys right now? We gonna knock out the silly ass guards with their little nightsticks, and we just gonna get up out of there. We gonna bounce like a bad check. And I'm thinking when all the screaming starts, ain't nothing but opportunity for you to bounce with us.
Let me get to the point, man.
Escaping.
How would you like to make 8,000 cash? Work with me. It's called artistic gaming.
You know that the Spanish word doblón means double?
Well, hello, my handsome, well-dressed black man. What can I do for you?
Baby girl, I'm here to upgrade you. Yo, driver, what's up? Is that you, Diamond? Yo, we out.
We have 8-year-old Diamond Rough.
He shot that boy. I say to myself, why they shoot that boy?
Is this weapon familiar?
But because of a lack of evidence, you know what we're gonna have to do.
Drop some serious cash.
Ha! Exactly.
What you know about this guy?
You gonna join forces with him? Bad boy going good, huh?
Reverend Woods, we like what you're doing in Connecticut and the nation. We just can't have Mr. Ruff, a jailbird, to be a part of a program that we're funding.
Suddenly, the investigation was dropped.
How did you get that information?
I don't trust my own mother when it comes to my money.
I take you up on that challenge.
Money doesn't control me. God does.
The Bible says faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. We ain't seen nothing yet, Brother Don. I believe he's opening some doors.
Oh, yeah? Well, tell him to open up these doors first.
In order to make it in the game, you gotta play the game. And this too shall pass.
Where we see the artillery, man?
We've got 11 minutes to get this done.
Open the safe or I'm gonna open your skull.
All right, Diamond, we're ready to go.
It's time to make this happen. Let's make history.
Don't shoot! Don't shoot! I'm the drama teacher.
The story of Sarah Tillinghast, what we now think of as a vampire legend, was written by Sidney Ryder in 1888.
Their graveyard is Exeter Historical Cemetery number 14. There are a lot of unmarked graves in that cemetery.
You know, up to the scientific revolution, everybody from Pope to peasants believed in witchcraft and demons, and you could get possessed of the devil and have demonic things happening.
There were hundreds of ways for someone to become a vampire, reasons for a corpse to become a vampire, thousands of ways to ward off vampires, to kill vampires, to keep them at bay. It wasn't just cutting out the heart, burning it to ashes, and then feeding the ashes to the sick person.
This individual went to the grave of a known vampire and ate dirt from the grave and took blood from the corpse. The corpse cried out as if he was still alive, and blood was flowing freely.
The vampire can get your body, but it can't get your mind. It can't get your spirit. It can't get your soul.
If you look at the symptoms of consumption and you look at the descriptions of vampire attacks, they match up very well.
Consumption was generally more of a gradual disease where you would begin to literally waste away. The body became consumed. It began to shrivel, to shrink.
Almost any kind of wasting disease where a person loses weight, where they become pale, where they seem to fade away, could be called a consumption.
You know, you had people that were desperate here. The family were dying. You know, the doctors couldn't help them, the churches couldn't help them.
They didn't know what caused consumption. And of course, today, you know, we know it's tuberculosis. And we know that it's contagious.
Tuberculosis is actually the most common infection in the world today. we think about 1 out of every 3 people alive carries the germ.
The blood is the life. That's in Dracula. It's also in the Bible. So if the blood was still liquid, meaning fresh, then that corpse or part of that corpse was not completely dead.
You're familiar with the old saying, dead men tell no tales. Well, forget about it. Dead men tell a lot of tales because it lives in the bones, and the bones never lie.
Welcome back to Short Film Showcase. We just saw 2 teasers from our next guest. It's a good friend of mine, Alec Asten.
Great to see you again, Mike. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And just to clarify, Alec, not Alex.
Yeah. It's Alec with a C, correct.
That's great. So Alec, and you look sharp as always.
Well, thank you.
And we just saw 2 teasers for your work, Diamond Rough and Tillinghast Nightmare. Let's start with Tillinghast Nightmare. Tell us about it.
Well, the Tillinghast Nightmare was a project that actually, the genesis was probably started about 10 years ago. And it started with an idea. I have a series that I've been putting together called Historical Haunts. And basically what it is we use ghost stories, legends, to kind of help educate people of history, science, and literature. And when I started this whole project 5 years ago, I did it on a legend in Connecticut, in Norwich, Connecticut. And I had always heard about this story of vampirisms throughout Rhode Island, and just thought it was kind of a bizarre thing and wanted to investigate it. So the Tillinghast Nightmare is a documentary that's first fold of a series of films that we're putting together, and each legend will kind of have a narrative adaptation, kind of like a Twilight Zone story, and then a documentary, and then lesson plans that'll be going and circulating in schools and everything. Kind of teach kids of all ages about, you know, about just being aware of history. Because for me, I hated history when I was a kid. You know, I just numbers, names, you know, all that. Just kind of like it didn't interest me. And it wasn't until later in life that I really realized stories were the secret.
Right.
You know, so when I started hearing about, and as I would visit some of these, you know, historical areas, the locations we have throughout New England. It was funny that, you know, the other 2 things brought people, the visitors, to the places. It was one, either reenactors, you know, doing epic battles, or it was, you know, ghost haunts. You know, they love to go on the tours and stuff. So I thought, well, maybe there's a way of using film and using those kind of legends to kind of inspire people to want to do a little more research and learn a little bit more about history and everything. So the story of the Tillinghast Nightmare was a story about a family in South County that basically they was a sickness that kind of wiped out most of the family. And back then, just from fears and phobias, they actually felt that their children, this farmer who's astutely Tillinghast and his wife, believed that their children were turning into vampires.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty kind of weird stuff. And it actually, it wasn't the first time this has happened. First time that we know documented was actually in Wilmington, Connecticut.
Okay.
But this was in, you know, in late 1700s. It was actually in 1793 that this incident happened. And so the documentary we put together first because when we did our previous project, The Curse of Micah Rood, we went straight into making the film and then working on the documentary afterwards. And I realized that doing the documentary, we could uncover so many secrets that we could then use for the story part of putting together the script for the narrative part. So for me, the documentary of the Tillinghast Nightmare was essential to have that first and foremost. So we spent 2 years, my fellow producers, Magda Grover and Judith Nutkus, we worked together on this, researching it, and came up with other tales of this vampirism that happened throughout New England. And meeting with fantastic, I mean, the people that we were able to interview, I mean, they're legends in their own realm.
Right.
You know, whether it was Nick Bellantoni, the Connecticut State archaeologist, Michael Bell, the Rhode Island State folklorist, Christopher Rondina, who is an author of Vampires of New England. All these people, you know, in their own right, had so much to bring to the table. The things we learned were amazing, not just about vampires per se, but about culture and about what people in New England, what their fears were all about.
Wow.
And how they dealt with it with colonial medicine.
What were the fears? Some of them.
Well, a lot of them, I think, is, you know, it's understood because, you know, there was no science back then. And back then, you know, what we know in this case, this vampirism, was really a result of tuberculosis.
Okay.
But they didn't understand any air breathing or you know, any kind of mutation that would kind of, the bacteria that would go over the air. And of course, what happened back then is these kids, you know, you'd have a farmer that would have nothing less than like 12, 15 children to take care of the farm. But where do these kids sleep? You know, they didn't have separate bedrooms like we have today. They were all sleeping together.
So it would just pass on.
Right.
Wow.
So something in the night, and then when you have tuberculosis, you know, you have a series of nightmares. Of course, you lose weight, and most of the effects here in your lungs start to collapse. Is you have these feelings and premonitions of, and this is what happened in this case, where some of the children, after the first one passed on, would have dreams, have nightmares that their sister came back from the dead and would sit on their chest and be soaking the life up out of them. And of course, it was a nightmare that was going on. But the parents, the only thing they had to see was they would watch their child wither away.
Wow.
And you know, when you have tuberculosis, you cough up blood, you know, and you just kind of become nothing but a shell. You know, and so seeing that, it almost gave them this impression. You could see where this phobia becomes to arise and change that. It's like something was literally sucking the life out of their children. And it was happening one by one. So what did they do? So they looked into old folk medicine, mostly from Eastern Europe. And basically they, you know, they went to the graveyards, they dug up their children, they exhumed the bodies, they pulled out their hearts, they burned their hearts. In some cases, they used the ashes from their hearts and made tinctures of tea to give to the rest of the children.
Wow.
Sometimes in Cumberland, there was another story where they just actually burned the child and sat there and just kind of like inhaled the smoke, thinking it would cure them. So it was very interesting that all of this had happened within the Ocean State and within New England. But what became more fascinating to me was these stories circulated in the news, and they actually inspired a gentleman from over in Ireland who had lived in Britain at the time, Bram Stoker, who, while he was kind of putting his ideas together for his novel Dracula, started to pick articles out of the New York World, New York Times now, but the New York World, there were articles about this vampirism happening in Rhode Island. So some of the stories that happened here actually influenced Dracula.
Wow.
So for us, I thought it was kind of an interesting thing because vampires, I don't think they'll ever die. They, you know, and zombies are have been on the rise now for the past couple of years. But I think we have a fascination with immortality.
Sure.
You know, and I think that's just the frailness of human nature. So for me, again, these historical haunts is using these kind of legends that are circulating all around America that we've kind of grabbed and obtained, and using them to kind of inspire people to learn
the
more about history.
whole immortality and kind of the sensuality, the sexuality of these vampires are kind of evidenced in some of the films that, you know, we know about, mainstream films, but also what you're doing is just terrific. It's just, like you said, the historical relevance.
I love it. It's been a great, you know, I never ever saw myself essentially as a documentary filmmaker. You know, I love working in narrative work and working with actors, but it was honestly a wonderful opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the other documentaries we're going to do in the future.
Let's talk about Diamond Ruff a little bit. Let's to our other teaser that we saw. Tell us about that. And you have some actors that someone in the audience might be familiar with.
Yeah, well, the main character, Diamond, is portrayed by Fredro Starr. Fredro Starr was he's a rap singer from Onyx.
Right, let the boys be boys.
Legion of fans.
Right.
A great guy. I had a lot of fun working with him. A lot of fun working with the whole team. Dennis White, Michael Collier, Snoop Pearson, and it was really kind of it was a fantastic opportunity because it was dealing with subject matter that I knew nothing about.
Right.
I mean, hey, I'm a white guy from Westerly, knows nothing about inner city turmoil.
Sure.
And the story took place in Hartford, and it was all about a young boy who pretty much grows up on the streets.
Right.
And and when we see him in his prime of his life. He's like just, you know, he's a con man, top artist, top of his game, and yet he has a fault. And the fault is pride.
Okay.
And so while a heist is going down, an accident happens, he ends up being thrown into a prison, and there he meets a preacher who changes his life. And the film is all about redemption. And that's what I loved about it, it was about trying to find out what you have to offer to everyone else around you. And I think that is the value of life itself, is, you know, it's not me, I.
Right.
It's what can I do for those around me. And so You know, again, the subject matter, I wasn't so clear about. I had to do a lot of research and talk to a lot of people. And the producer of the project, there was a couple producers involved between Janetta, Kyle Young, and Denise Gross. But Joe Young, Joe, this was Joe's baby. Joe Young had written the book several years ago, and it's been his dream to put this film together. And it was just sheer luck, great coincidence that he ended up pulling me on board. And trusted me, you know, with his baby.
As director.
As director. So I
Yes.
came aboard. We shot for 23 weeks in Hartford, and Hartford was amazing. I mean, they really came out. I mean, we had a squadron. We had a dozen police cars. We had 4 blocks shut off for us, and this was all for a film that was done way under budget. Yeah, micro budget. I mean, Joe had a lot of connections and a lot of friends help out, and I think that to me is why I've stayed here in New England and why I really truly believe in making films happen here.
Let's talk about that just a little bit. About, I said micro budget. It may not have been a micro budget by my standards, or because we won't talk about the exact numbers here out of respect to the project.
It was under $500,000. I can tell you that. I think that's a good realm for your micro budget. But
yeah, and when people talk about budgets and there's unions and all types of things involved, how does one approach a film and say, well, if we want, you know, the gentleman from Onyx, if we want this actor or this performer, and then we have to budget out this movie in some broad strokes, could you tell us about how people even attack that notion?
You're saying like to a novice, addressing it
To a novice,
to somebody
yeah.
that, well, I think, you know, I mean, first and foremost, it all starts with the story.
Right.
You know, it's got to be something that grabs people. And as a writer, director, producer, I think the key is your passion.
Right.
You know, if you're not selling your film, no one else is going to be. I mean, everyone can say, oh, I need an agent, I need a rep. No, you know what? You need to believe in your product.
Right.
You know, because that's step one, because it's contagious.
Right.
Everyone kind of gets involved in a project that, you know, that has that passion behind it, has that drive. And so I think for somebody that did have something that they were self-creating and everything, sometimes it's a matter of just going through the back door.
Right.
I mean, you may never know. You know, as you talk to friends, you talk to relatives and everything, somebody may know somebody.
Right.
And you work your way through that, you know, you'd be surprised how well, I mean, it was one thing when I was doing the short film, The Curse from Micah Rood, the screenwriter had gone to school with Ron Paolillo.
Who was on
And Ron
Welcome Back, Kotter.
Was Horshack from Welcome Back, Kotter. And it was a show that, you know, growing up in the 70s, I, you know, loved and enjoyed. And I was like, I'd love to work with him. I was like, so we just traveled down on a whim to go see him in New York. And we talked about it in the script. And I actually was thinking of Ron playing another character. And Ron said, nope, I want to do Mike Root. And it was great. It was an honor to work with him. And but it's just that kind of thing. It's like you never know. I think the important thing is a lot of people feel like when they create something, they contain it. You know? They're like, it's, you know, if I let somebody know it, they're going to steal it. Well,
if I let someone read my script, like how do I?
It could happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen.
Right.
But if you don't take the opportunity to try to get it out there, it will never happen.
It'll sit on the shelf and collect dust, and by the time you do get around to it, it'll be antiquated.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of novice writers, an example, they don't want to send their scripts to a screenwriting contest or to a production company. They have this fear that someone's going to take their script, take their name off it, and steal the whole script. It would just be as easy for that producer to hire or pay for the script from the initial writer, you know.
My suggestion to that is to those writers out there that really want to put something together, is your baby, the one that you really want to do, just work on it and put it in your back pocket.
Right.
Work on some other stuff that you can hand out to people.
Okay.
That you don't really care whether somebody takes it, somebody runs with it, but if it does run and your name is attached to it, now you've got credibility that then you can walk to somebody and pull your baby out and be like, all right, would you take a look at this?
Right.
Because now they, whoever the people are in the industry that are reading your material, now they trust you.
Right.
But I think that's the biggest mistake people make is, you know, is I've seen a lot of people, you know, they work so hard at creating this project. And even if it's not even just a script, maybe it's a finished film, and they don't want to show it.
Yeah, they have.
It's like, you know, and I'm a firm believer, you know, walk before you run, you know.
Right.
I meet too many people that want to go out and I'm making a feature film, and I'm like, good luck.
Good luck.
You know?
Where's your short film first?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, Mike. And that's the key is you gotta learn how to, you know, when I went to film school, I had a wonderful teacher. He was this Yugoslavian character named Yuri Denisenko, and Yuri would say to us, he'd say, students don't make films, students make mistakes, you know, and he's right. But that's the rule of life. You have to make mistakes to learn. You're only going to get better. So if you jump in doing a feature film and you're especially using your credit cards, forget it. You're on a bad path. It's like learn first, do some small films, get your feet wet, so you really know what you're doing, so you're saving time because, as you know, my friend, time is money when you're making a film.
Just to add to that, mistakes become your style, according to Steve Fierberg, a film guru of mine.
I don't doubt that. That's right. I agree with Steve.
Unbelievable. We've talked so much stuff here, but we do want to mention Sect Film real quick. It's a great group that you're a big part of. Sect Film is out of Southeast Connecticut. Tell us about that real quick.
Well, Southeastern Connecticut filmmakers started 6 years ago. It started with the notion that when I was actually doing Rude, we were, you know, when I finished with it, I asked, we had actually brought people out of the woods, were helping out. You know, we were teaching people the craft as we were going. And I said to them, when we were done, I was like, well, what can I do for you guys? And they said, we want to make some films too. And I said, all right, well, let's do it. So we gathered together, we created this club, you know, and we grew in size. We grew in size to about 200 people. People were coming from Massachusetts, from New York, from
Rhode
all
Island.
over to help. From Rhode Island, of course, to help. And to me, that's it. There's no boundaries. I think a lot of people put boundaries. As New Englanders, especially as Rhode Islanders, we're ridiculous about it. It's like, you know, I grew up in Westerly, so it was like, well, if I go to a province, I better pack an extra lunch in case something happens, the car breaks down. It's like, it's like, no, it's like, you know, the rest of the world, especially when you live somewhere in a big state where driving 2 or 3 hours is nothing. I think that kind of like stops people. It's this hindrance that they put upon themselves that they shouldn't, because there's so much talent within this area. It staggers my mind every time I meet somebody and see the work they produce, whether they're an actor, whether they're a writer, or whether they're a filmmaker. You know, so so Sect Film started with that, and we've grown strong for about 6 years now, and everything, and helped to promote, you know, filmmakers in the area.
I always like coming down when I'm able to come down, and it's unbelievable. We've talked so much. We're actually running out of time, Alec. But
well, that's what good things are all about, right, Mike?
If people want to find you, you're on Facebook and everything, and the Sect Film group is right there on Facebook, and people can look you up and communicate with you about what you're up to.
That's right. They could reach out to me either through Historical Haunts.
Okay.
We have a website there, and Firesite Films. That's my home base. That's my home fire, so to speak, where the tribe hangs out. We cultivate stories and stuff. So, yeah, I got a lot of good things happening this year, and looking forward to it. And glad to be a part of it. And again, pleasure being on the show. Thank you
so much, Alec Asten. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us for our very first episode of Short Film Showcase right here in the new year, 2014. We'd like to announce that on our next episode, we have a new segment hostess. It's a segment called What's Happening. It's going to keep you updated on the local events here in New England. Our hostess is going to be Ella Quezada, and we look forward to having her on Short Film Showcase. If you are out there thinking that you'd like to get involved in films, local films, independent films, short films, and you're just wondering, how do I get started? Well, put together a script, get some friends, because if you can dream it, shoot it. I'm Mike Messier for Short Film Showcase.